Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with a Limp, and I'm here with a special preview for you. This is BattlePlan. It is coming out soon from Slitherine Games. It is that's the best way to describe this one. It is an RTS game, but it's not just a regular RTS game. Not like we would think of like Command and Conquer and the like, right? So you're not just clicking, dragging, control grouping a bunch of units and trying to order and send them across the battlefield and take out your enemy's command station. It's not that style. You're not producing troops. You're not harvesting resources. Not that type of RTS. This is a more realistic military style, historically based RTS, but it's based on, obviously from the name, building out your battle plan to accomplish your objectives. Now, the cool part about this game is it is a World War II game, but it's a realistic World War II game because it is based off of real world battles, real world units, real world formations, real world leaders, and even down to the battlefields that they were fighting over. Now, it does have this more of a cartoony style look to it, but the terrain that you are fighting over is actually based off of the terrain that these battles were fought at. And you can even, one of the neat little things I liked about it is there are little picture icons across the map, and you can actually click on these and it shows the real pictures from those battles, from those time periods that were taken during those battles. I thought that was so cool. Just a neat little bit of history that is jammed in there for those of us who are, history buffs and enjoy this stuff. It's actually in there. But like I said, all the terrain, the leaders, everyone, the units, you've got the 3rd Armored, you've got the Big Red One, 1st Infantry Division. All of them are in this game, realistically. Now, you do have the option to create some of your own formations, but you can recruit directly from those historic formations, and they will have officers that you can use in them that are real officers that existed in real life. And just like in real life, different people have different skill sets. Different officers will confer certain types of bonuses to your units, whether they help them maintain a higher morale, or maybe they make tanks move just a little bit faster. And these little bonuses are something you're going to have to make use of to succeed at this game, because it is by no means easy. Now, when you start off your campaign with this game, it starts off with a few training scenarios where you have your units and like Canadian units that you're wargaming with to help you learn the game. And it's during this that you quickly see that this isn't your typical RTS. And in this, you really are more like that battlefield commander with that up high look, looking down upon the battlefield, and you're kind of drawn in with your pencil. This is what I want my units doing. So think of yourself as that army general, right? Looking down at that battlefield that you have laid out on the table in front of you, and they're using the little staves to move the units, all that stuff, that type of principle. So you're going to use the tools to develop your specific battle plan. You might draw lines that you're going to issue as hold the line. You want your units to go here, or you're going to order them to push through at this point, go to try to capture enemy logistics, encircle the enemy. Whatever your battle plan is, you're going to draw that out across the map. And then once you've decided what all your orders are going to be, then you have to click execute and just kind of watch and see how things play out. You do have the ability to do like an emergency order session if things are starting to go bad. But generally speaking, it's one of those styles where you'll issue your orders and let it happen. And then after a period of time, generally it's the day. So you issue out your orders for the day, goes through to the night. Then the next day, you're going to issue new orders for your units to continue the attack. So after the first couple of training scenarios is really when the game starts to kind of kick in. You're getting into Carrington and Cannes. And I got to experience how the game works when it comes to the more of logistics and recruitment with your units. Now, do keep in mind, this is an early stage. This hasn't been released yet, so it's not quite finished. I know they are going to be tweaking some of the stuff here, so don't take this as the end-all be-all. But you do have a fair amount of options open to you. You'll be able to select, generally you started off with just the Big Red One and the 3rd Armored, And then I was poking around, and something I kind of messed up at first is I had a selection of just all these different unit types on the right, tanks and infantry and artillery and self-propelled artillery and headquarters units. And I just started randomly clicking on those things. I was like, what am I doing here? And the problem is I was looking on one section of the screen, but it's adding all of these guys over to the right. So I kind of wish it had scooted the screen over automatically, because I didn't realize it was adding all these random units to the board. So I was effectively recruiting them. And then once I hit like the sort button, it showed me, I was like, oh, so I had this formation's worth of units just randomly on there with no leadership, nothing really kind of guiding them. So I kind of inadvertently ad hoc created a division. At that point, I went ahead and pulled down some leader units, put them on it, put an officer in charge, and left it at that. Is the formation still isn't great. And I really do believe they're going to do more to kind of update where it's at right now, because it wasn't fully as intuitive. And as of yet, I don't see a way to remove things. So when you're selecting your units, you can select the individual, companies, right? So a company of tanks, a company of artillery, a company of infantry, whatever it is that you're trying to create to form your division. But if you click on one of those units, it kind of gets added to the battle board of your units, but I don't see a way to remove it. Like if you accidentally click one, I'm just trying to click and drag, right click, left click, nothing. I couldn't figure out. There's no X, there's no nothing. I'm sure there's a way to remove it, but maybe I'm missing it. Maybe it's not in there yet. But just for now, be careful when you're selecting out your stuff to make sure you don't inadvertently bring things out that you don't really have a place for. And I was having a hard time figuring out how to actually attach the units. Now, what actually happens is at the top and bottom of each one of those little unit rectangle cards are triangles, and you will use those to click and hold, and you'll drag to different headquarters units or different formations, and that will get bunched together and ultimately become that division. So you do have the option to create your own, or you can recruit from a selection of pre-made infantry and armored divisions, or even air divisions to just add to your group. I would definitely start with the pre-made ones when you're first playing the game, until you kind of learn how to kit out a division with the appropriate different types of units, because you can't just have a bunch of infantry or a bunch of tanks. You got to have the support units. You got to have some mortars in there. You got to have some engineers in there. You got to have the headquarters unit. You got to have the whole package. Otherwise, the division's not going to work right. Something else I discovered after I had played through the tutorial missions and I was getting into the real missions proper, is that the refit and recovery of your divisions wasn't as intuitive. Now, I have seen that there have been some updates to the game since then, and it appears like it's changed. So I believe this section of the game is still kind of in development. And this is just what I believe is going to go on with this. I'm kind of guessing because it's not finalized yet. So just take his understanding that it's not done yet. I'm kind of guessing at it. But originally, my units didn't have the ability to kind of refit. I had some type of points, but I didn't really have a thing to say, hey, I want to refit the Big Red One or the third armor to kind of bring more tanks. And something that threw me off is the training missions themselves. You're doing training against friendlies, so you're not incurring losses, but you had two of those, and then your third mission is the first real combat mission where you're going against the Germans. And my Big Red One and Third Armored are starting off with some losses already built in from training. And I'm like, guys, yes, guys die in training, but not to that level. You're not going to lose a quarter of your division to training casualties. It doesn't generally happen like that. And there's some training accidents, but I just think that everything should have been fully rekitted, fleshed out, good to go when you're starting your combat missions. I don't think those earlier training mission results should carry over when you are actually starting your combat phase of the game. And those first couple of missions are just to teach you how to issue orders. So it's like, why are we, having those results carry over? Now I get it later on. the rest of the missions, you start getting 3, 4, Carentan and Battle of Khan and all those, where you're taking losses, you're losing tanks, you're losing men. Of course, it's going to take those divisions some time to refit and reform after taking casualties. So yeah, that's fine. But from training, no, the losses don't occur like that from training. But as you've been watching it in the background, you can see the basic gist of how the game's going to play out. And the best descriptor that I can kind of give it would be Hearts of Iron 4 battle plan, but it's a lot more fleshed out than just that general premise where you're kind of drawn across the map where you want your units to go, kind of mixed with Warno's area control, where you're pushing forward, you're taking segments of the map as yours, red or blue, and you're going to push forward. And with this, you have to worry about your logistics and your supply lines, not allowing your troops to get cut off. You're attempting to actually cut off the enemy troops. You can capture and take over their own logistic supply points to kind of make them your own, which is obviously something you'll definitely want to do while trying to defend your own supply points. Because trust me, I learned the hard way. If your supply lines are not working properly, your units will crumble quickly. And I do like the way the game is set up now, is that you're not doing just that basic RTS thing, right? Select units and say attack here. It's not like that, right? If you do a bad battle plan, you're going to fail. And you can see from the videos I have in the background, my first few games were just atrocious. My battle plans were horrible and it was not working well. And don't be afraid to restart the game, because I restarted that map multiple times trying to figure out the best way to do it. You want to make smarter choices rather than just saying attack here. You have to consider your own supply lines, your enemy forces, the terrain, because different types of terrain can give you bonuses. So instead of just clicking and controlling a group and saying attack here, you might do something like, hey, I'm going to have this division assemble here, and then they're going to barrage for 3 or 6 hours, and they're going to soften that enemy force. Or if you have tactical air support that's there on the map, that's another type of unit that you can bring. You might send in some of your bombers to come through and do a little carpet bombing for you prior to your assault beginning. Regardless of the point, you're still trying to soften up those enemy positions, make sure they're not gaining like dug-in bonuses and the like. You're going to then issue your attack to either seize ground or try to break through. You might try to do a breakthrough attack when you're going after maybe their supply point, because if you can get there, capture their supply point, now all their forces that were supplying from that are going to become weaker. Or maybe you want to do something like seize ground, so you weaken the enemy forces and then draw a circle around them and click that encircle and try to seize that territory behind them, because now they're cut off. Same principle, you still cut them off from their supply, and you'll be able to quickly whittle down those enemy forces. Something though that I have discovered with this game is you really want to be careful with your forces, because like I said, those damages, those battle casualties carry over. And even if you win the scenario, if you get more of that Pyrrhic victory where, yeah, you won, but did you really win for what it cost you? You might end up in a situation where you kind of soft lock for the next scenario if your divisions are just raffle stomped and they don't have the manpower or tanks or supplies, whatnot, to be able to actually complete the mission. So if you take huge losses, you might want to restart the scenario. Ultimately, though, I will give it to Slitherine. I think they've got something interesting here. I think people who are into war games, wanting something a little different, are going to find something that they're going to like here. But like I said, it's not an easy game. You're going to have to make those smart choices. You can't take huge losses. You've got to have a good battle plan. You got to be smart with your units. And that's more thematic. That's more accurate to real life. This isn't Command and Conquer, and it's not supposed to be. You shouldn't be able to just harvest Tiberium and print out new infantry. It's not going to work that way. If you let your division get cut off and either captured or destroyed, you're going to have a really hard time with your campaign later on. At this earlier stage of the game's development, I would say it's good, but I definitely could see it getting a lot better because a lot of the problems I'm having with it now, betting are things that are being worked on are going to be fully fleshed out, like the whole recruitment system for your units, how to actually incorporate them, create your own divisions, and what, like all of that I can tell is still kind of being fleshed out. The refitting and reforming your units after battle still being fleshed out. It's getting there, but it's not quite done yet at this point. Ultimately speaking, if you're someone who likes games like Flashpoint campaigns, right, the ones where you have to effectively use the forces that you have to accomplish your objective, right? Not just the Hoey mindset. Yes, you can produce more troops there, but even in that game, you do have limited manpower. You can't just throw your men into the meat grinder willy-nilly. So the ones that have played that, Flashpoint, or even Warno, and they enjoy that area control, trying to seize territory, I think they're going to find something that they're going to like here. So I would definitely put BattlePlan on your wish list and keep an eye on it for when this one releases. All right, that's going to be it for me for this one. You guys stay tuned. I will try to do a full update video for BattlePlan when it does a full release, and we'll see how this one comes out. All right, that's going to be it for me. You guys take care. I will catch you in the next one.